Welcome everyone to another HGA's Session Spotlight. This is an opportunity for you to get to know our Convergence 2024 leaders, their sessions, and give you a better idea of what you want to register for this coming summer in Wichita. Today we'll be hearing from the following leaders: Abraham Buddish, Tegan Frisino, Liz Gipson, Irene Heckel-Volpe, and Robyn Spady. As a reminder, Convergence 2024 will be taking place in Wichita, Kansas from July 11th through the 17th. If you haven't already paid through the registration book, please do. You will find all kinds of information about the different sessions and events taking place, including the marketplace, exhibits, wearable art fashion show, our keynote speaker, tours, and more. We will be hosting over 150 different sessions, ranging from 90-minute seminars to 3-day workshops, and some of which we'll get to hear today. So our first featured leader today will be Abraham Buddish. Welcome, Abraham.
Hello, everyone. Yes, so my name is Abraham Buddish, and I will be teaching tips, tricks, and how-tos of rust dyeing. This is a Friday morning 90-minute seminar. And this is a 90-minute seminar, but I squeeze a lot of information into this seminar. Whether you've never heard of rust dyeing before, or if you have dabbled with it, I believe this seminar would be great for you to take. We will be going over the whole process of using steel or iron to dye fabric and cloth. We'll also be talking about different techniques to use it for dyeing yarn as well. So we'll be going through the whole process. If you've never heard about it, you're learning about it now. There will be lots of tips and tricks that I will share through this whole seminar. And as a bonus, some of these tips and tricks can be used in other dyeing techniques as well. We will go through a lot of rust dyeing techniques and how to use them to get the result that you want. We'll go from everything from using found objects to create designs to how to use iron to make more shibboleth textures. Here's another shibboleth sample. To a little bit more raw and just organic of a design. Just letting the steel and rust have a mind of its own, because it does. To a little bit more controlled and patterned. To even a little bit more controlled. And then also how to treat it a little bit more painterly, and how to create lots of control to get exactly what you are trying to achieve. We will also look at how the iron can work as a mordant for other natural dyes, and how natural dyes affect rust. So for example, this was red wine compared to just the iron itself. And there will be lots and lots and lots of samples. So if you are interested in rust dyeing at all, I hope that you will take this seminar, and I think it will be very informative to you. We will not actually be rust dyeing in the class, but there will be photos and lots of samples. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Abraham. Yes, let's see, there is a question here. Would this session be one that appeals to just dyers, or would it interest spinners and weavers as well?
Well, it is a dyeing class, so it is something that's you're going to be dyeing. But I have used my rust dyed yarn in weaving and in other projects. So if rust interests you, or this beautiful color that it creates, you can use it in all different projects.
And what kind of knowledge would someone need to have before attending the session?
you don't need anything. We'll be going through the whole process. I'll be sharing a lot of the technical information of how the process actually works, what you need, what you don't need, all the different things to consider.
Great. Thank you, Abraham.
Thank you.
Again, Abraham Buddish will be the leader for tips, tricks, and how-tos of rust dyeing. It's a 90-minute seminar, Friday, July 12th, 2024. Our next leader who will be talking about their workshop is Tegan Frisino. The title of this workshop is Unique Floats, How to Design Your Own Overshot. It's a one-day workshop on Sunday, July 14th. Welcome, Tegan.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am really excited to talk about my session, Unique Floats, How to Design Your Own Overshot. And if I may, I am going to share a quick PowerPoint. Let me just do this and get in here. Okay, so here's the workshop details. I will be hosting the session on Sunday, July 14th from 9 a.m. to 4:30. There is the code. And some of the information that you need before attending this workshop is that a laptop is required, and it does say you must be able to read a draft, but I will review and go over how to read a draft in a few different ways. And the material fee is to actually cover the workbook that will be included. Level is intermediate just because I'll be cramming so much stuff into this. You're gonna have to keep up with the language and keep up with the pace of the seminar. Here's the summary of the seminar that is also included in your registration books. And just to go over my excitement about this structure, Overshot is what got me interested in weaving in the first place. I've been studying it for a really long time, both in a historical and contemporary context. And I am so excited to bring my method of using name drafting to Convergence Wichita 2024. There's going to be a ton of samples. We're going to be going through all the steps and processes and how to edit and control your overshot design. What we're going to cover is we're going to clearly define what is overshot and how it was historically created and currently interpreted. We're going to identify the key motifs and design parameters. And I'm going to show you my method of name drafting and how to use it as a design starting point to build your overshot design. I will also teach you how to translate your profile draft that you create into a 4-harness and an 8-harness design. The material fee is going to cover the workbook that is currently being created. This is going to be your own personal resource after the workshop is over. There'll be the catalog of your different motifs, the definitions, spaces for notes. We'll be walking through step by step how to do all the designs. And there will be examples of contemporary and traditional overshot for you to reference. Even though no weaving is going to be happening in this workshop, this workbook is going to be a valuable resource to have. So when you get home to your own loom, you're going to have all the information there to get on your unique design that you designed in the class. And if you have any questions, you can ask them here, or you can email me at tegan@comfortclothweaving.com, or you can connect with me on Instagram at comfortcloth.
Great, thank you, Tegan. So we do have a question here. Will participants need any programs on their laptop for this workshop?
You will need some form of weaving software. Loom is a wonderful software that you can use. I personally use Fiberworks PCW because I have a Mac, but any weaving software that you have would be wonderful.
Okay, great. And are there free trials available? Do you know of any that?
Yes, Fiberworks, you can have a free trial. You wouldn't be able to save the file, but you can take screenshots of it so you can refer to it afterwards.
Okay, smart. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. In the Tegan Frisino, Frisino, she's going to be leading the workshop Unique Floats, How to Design Your Own Workshop, Overshot, one-day workshop, Sunday, July 14th. Our next leader who will be talking about their seminar will be Liz Gipson. The title of the seminar is Structure and the Rigid Heddle Loom. It's 90 minutes. It's going to be on Sunday on July 14th. Welcome, Liz. Oh, you're on mute, Liz. No worries.
Too excited.
Excellent. We can hear you.
I am last. Go ahead.
We can hear you clearly now. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay. I'm very excited it's been a while since I've been at Convergence, Albuquerque, I think, and I've never come as an instructor, only as a vendor, either with Interweaver Shack. So super excited to see all new and old weaving colleagues. I'm gonna share my screen. My name is Liz. I am a weaving teacher, and specifically a rigid heddle weaving teacher. So I've written 4 books on the subject. The rigid heddle is my muse, and the question I've been sort of avoiding, because Xenakis and McKinney did it so well before me, is how do I translate all those structures onto my rigid heddle loom? So in this seminar, we're gonna kind of touch on those subjects and dive in. You know, really starting, so the seminar is structures in a rigid heddle loom environment. So looking at how do you take all those 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and even 5s and 6s and 7s and 8s and turn them into a structure that you can weave on this magical loom. So to sort of take a step back, you know, a weave structure is really this recognizable repeating pattern of warp and weft interlaced that are built on a binary system, exist in natural law. So an end is either up or it's down, allowing a weft to pass over or under the winds. And so we have all these categories, lace and overshot and twill and double weave, and then we have really specific names that we've given them. And so we'll kind of look at that bird's eye view of structure and what that actually is. And then, because for the most part, we live in a shaft loom world, always kind of forced to compare one loom type to another, we'll look at the primary differences between the two systems, which are largely that a shaft loom system is an aligned system. So the yarns travel from the front beam to the back beam in a straight path. When we work on 2 and 3 heddles, we take a circuitous route. So because we only want to go through one heddle eye. The other primary difference is that the set mechanism, so your rigid heddle reed and your threading heddles, are combined in the rigid heddle world. So our set density and our thread order are collapsed into this one amazing technology, which is some of the oldest weaving technology there is. While the rigid heddle loom is a 20th century invention, the rigid heddle itself is ancient. And so the primary shorthand for structures in Western European weaving tradition drafts. I mention Western European weaving traditions because I live in New Mexico. I'm surrounded by 2 other traditions. So indigenous native traditions and the Rio Grande style Spanish settler systems. And we all weave similar structures, but the codes that we use for them, the language, is actually different. And so I'm going to focus on the system that I work in, and largely shorthand is drafts, but we're going to look at drafts from a bird's eye view. So really breaking down the quadrants of what they're saying, because things like tie up and truddling don't necessarily have meaning to rigid heddle weavers. So we'll look at threadings, you know, the threading order, the shed configurations. All that tie up is telling you is what ends need to be up and down, what order to weave the sheds, and the all-important chart. So we'll start to get to know the draft in sort of a different way. Regardless of the symbols that are in there, the quadrants can be rearranged. That's all it's telling you. And so when we look at the rigid heddle world superimposed on draft land, then we get something that is a little bit more like this. where, you know, we tend to use numbers assigned to our heddles. Slots and holes are more of our language rather than the number assignment. So we'll start getting comfortable with that. And then we'll start looking from draft to thread, because this does not tell me how to thread my loom. It only tells me the order the ends need to be in. And so we're going to start looking at, how do I take this draft? So this is created in Weave It software, permission granted. And I added the rigid Heddle bit at the top. And to do translations, I use what we lovingly call spaghetti drawings. And so any weaving software and a style, or any word processing where you can just make circles, or you can draw them on a piece of paper and start drawing your pathways, you can create your threading orders and your set densities. So we'll take a little look at that. And to take a step back too, because often when we look at it, I will reemphasize, we often look at translation, and sometimes you have to learn to translate before you can transcend. But on the rigid Heddle, there are many ways to set up the same structure. So you can approach it, and I've got a beagle running around in the background, from a single Heddle, double Heddle, triple Heddle. You can often get the same result. So how you want to get there depends on how you like to weave. And really, once you get to know the drafts, you know, you can just use the chart as a pickup structure. So if the threading position exceeds what you can do, it's pretty powerful. And we often think sometimes structure can be really busy. So how can any draft I can take and learn how to use that draw down or draw up of the chart itself as a pickup chart and create intricate borders, and then carry on with weaving the base of my cloth. So we'll kind of take it from a bunch of different directions, looking at repeats and set density and threading option and loom styles, draft deconstruction, and really look at the limits and freedoms, because, you know, all looms have constraints and all looms have freedoms. So the rigid Heddle loom is the way I like to weave for really specific reasons. I like to move around a lot. As someone who is interested in making weavers, people ask me what I weave or make, and I say I make weavers. It's a really great way as an entry point into weaving, and it can be a full stop too. There's really is to show you all those boundaries. I have a lot of weavers who are downsizing, so it's very urban friendly, small apartment friendly. So there's lots of ways. So really showing you that it's not just plain weave on a rigid Heddle loom. There's so much that you can do. So that is what we are going to explore in our 90 minutes of fun. And I'm always so sad because all the workshops I want to take are always on the same day. I'm doing something else.
I have to ask, Liz, was that you with the puppy walking in that beautiful environment on the right? Was that?
Yes.
Oh, what a special place.
That was me and my dog. Yeah, I lost him this year, but he was my weaving companion of 11 years. And we go out and weave all the time. So that's what I love about that loom.
Precious, wonderful. Let's see. So we do have a couple questions here. So this session has no materials fee. Are there any supplies that participants need to bring?
No, not really. I mean, note-taking materials. And so I will certainly make the slide available to people at a later date. I assume we have like registration information, but no. And oh, I'm getting my connection is unstable. I made it. I live in small town, New Mexico. I am publishing a new book that Convergence is the D-Day. So I'm writing a book about this entire subject.
Oh, wow.
So you know, it's really giving an overview, and then I'll have a lot of resources that you can dig into. So, yeah.
Okay, great. And then see another question. So this session is for beginners. Can anyone who is interested in rigid Heddle take the session? Because rigid Heddle is just extremely popular right now. So
yeah, I as far as who is a good candidate, anybody who's curious, you know, craft loom weavers who are curious about the rigid Heddle loom are great. People who are new to weaving, although what I would say is that it's really helpful if you're familiar with the language of weaving. So if you already have some familiarity, so if you're a brand new weaver saying, I love rigid Heddle, you know, if you don't know what warp and weft and end, you might get lost. But I also think sometimes getting lost is where you get found. So I think there's still takeaways that you can have if, you know, we ask, leave your preconceptions at the door and bring your curiosity in.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Liz Gipson, structure and the rigid Heddle loom is what she'll be leading at Convergence. It's a 90-minute session, Sunday, July 14th. Thank you. Our next leader who will be speaking is Irene Heckel-Volpe. The workshop she is leading is titled Needle Felting, a Character Doll Using Wire Armature. It's a 3-day workshop, Monday through Wednesday, July 15th through the 17th. Welcome, Irene.
Hey, well, thank you, Mandy. I apologize in advance for my voice. I have a very bad case of laryngitis, so I'm trying to work my way through.
Okay.
Anyway, I want to thank everybody who's joining in today too, and I especially want to thank HGA for giving me the opportunity to teach some of these sessions at Convergence. I'm very excited to do that. Mandy, do we have a connection? Can you guys
We
hear me?
do. Are you trying to share your screen?
No, I am not.
Oh, you can go ahead and begin.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I'm sorry. My fault.
No,
Um,
sorry about that.
That's okay. Right now, I just want to go into the session I'll be teaching is needle felting a character doll that using a wire armature. And in that session, we'll be covering basic needle felting techniques because I know many people are not familiar. But basic needle felting techniques as they relate to faces and learning to use wire armature to help those characters come to life. For many fiber people that I've spoken to, needle felting still a little bit of a mystery. What I will do is I'm going to bring up, I do have a couple of images I can share, so I'll bring them up. Give me one moment and I will bring them right up. Let's see. That's about as fast as this will go. Okay. You can see some of these characters that are on here right now. What makes me proud of them is basically these two first ladies were done by beginners in a seminar that we did or another session I have done previously. These people are beginners because a lot of people look at these characters and they feel they will never be able to sculpt because they're not sculptors. They'll not be able to make anything that resembles a sort of a human being. Another one from a different session that I've taught. Different one, again, totally more of a fantasy character. And this is a group of characters with their characters, just to give people an idea of what can be accomplished in this particular session. All right, I am stopping the share screen for right now. Anyway, the techniques, the good news is the techniques that you'll be learning in this session will help you if you want to continue needle felting or use needle felting in other projects. The wire armature is especially interesting to most people because of their interest in using it in other ways and using it in other projects, learning how to build other 3D I'll say characters or creatures at this point, whether they be animal, vegetable, or mineral. They like to do that, and this, even in this particular subject, using dolls per se will help with that, because you can learn how the armature works and how it applies. the good news for me, I find that needle felting is best learned hands-on if at all possible, because you get to actually watch what's being done and really get a good idea of technique and what's going on. I have, in fact, behind me, I have a piece that I'm going to be bringing as a sample. And you could see part of his body is done, and part you could see the armature hanging out. So it'll continue, and it helps give it expression and character. And that's what's really kind of fun. The best part for me, though, is the fact that I have more fun during class than most people should be allowed to have. The classes are relaxing, and most of the students have a really good time because the atmosphere is very relaxed. The needle felting does not have patterns or layouts or pre-structured items. We learn techniques, we learn how to apply them, but because of the freedom that you have, as you could see with some of the characters in the class photo I showed, they all come out different. And I don't care what conceived notion you come in with, your character will come out as it wants to. And frankly, probably subconsciously as you want it to. So I enjoy watching. I think the thing I enjoy most, watching how surprised students are at what they can create or who they can create, because they let the fibers and their education guide them further. I know some of the other instructors have gone over this. For my classes, there are no prerequisites for needle felting. You do not have to be experienced. You do not have to be experienced with wire armature either. It's appropriate for beginners and, of course, advanced, because advanced students will be able to build on previous knowledge. And the kits that will be provided will actually take you from start to finish on your doll. We're going to address dressing your character, because there'll be a lot of naked bodies in that class. But we'll address clothing the doll, but that's not necessarily something we may get to. It'll depend on the progress of the students and how quickly they work. But the thing, again, I want to emphasize, what's really nice about this class is it's very relaxing, fun, and it's much like needle felting is. It just is an easy fiber art to pick up. It does take a lot to get really good at it. I've been doing it and teaching it since 2002. So I have a little bit of background. So anybody with questions or situations, even that don't relate to this, I'll be happy to address them in any way I can. I love it. And I'm hoping that some students who take this will also learn to love it.
Great. Thank you, Irene. I love the dolls that you create. And the variety is the range, the creativity. It's amazing. Let's see. We do have a question. This session has a $25 materials fee to cover these kits that you mentioned. Do participants need to bring any supplies of their own? Or?
Yes, I believe it's said in the session description. I will have stuff with me, but I suggest the basic sewing kit, scissors and a needle, maybe some very strong button and carpet thread and things like that help out. But most of the stuff, if they come with nothing, they'll be fine. All they'll need is a felting needle and a sense of humor, and class will go on.
Very good. Another question here. So if I wanted to create something like this, but of my dog or the animal, would the skills I learn in your workshop can I apply them to something, to create something like that?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. That's what I was mentioning earlier, especially with the wire armature. Pets are very popular. In fact, I argued with myself over doing pets. The character dolls are a little easier because of the basic kits required. Animals, there are so many varieties. If I could bring my whole studio as far as color fibers and stuff, I would have to do that. But yes, absolutely. If we're learning structure on heads and faces and ears and things, yes, absolutely, you can adapt them to any I would say critter. Let's go with critter because people have a lot of different animals. You could adapt them to anything. And again, during class, we'll have time. If people have questions that'll go outside of what we're doing, I'm open to all of that. So they can, bring up anything they would like. That's fine. We'll try to address it while we're there.
Excellent. Thank you, Irene. Again, Irene's class is titled Needle Felting a Character Doll Using Wire Armature, 3-day workshop, Monday through Wednesday, July 15th through 17th. Our last leader to speak today is Robyn Spady. She will be teaching a 3-hour seminar titled Introduction to Tide Weaves on Friday, July 12th. Welcome, Robyn.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share my love of tide weaves with people. I am going to go over and share my screen so I can go to my PowerPoint and share with you just a brief presentation to give you an idea of what we are going to be doing during this workshop or this seminar. This seminar is a 3-hour seminar on Friday afternoon. It essentially is it's going to be fairly intensive, but it's going to take essentially my Tide Weaves workshop and condense the information in. So you don't need to bring anything, maybe something to write with. And for anybody that thinks of Tide Weaves and is confused, or it leaves you feeling constrained and restricted, we're going to break free of our bonds and we're going to exploit things and really show the potential. When people hear about Tide Weaves, the first thing some people think of is summer and winter. Summer and winter is one facet of Tide Weaves. So during this, there are more seasons, you could say, of Tide Weaves beyond summer and winter. And this is essentially the opportunity to start and move on to other things, because once you tackle one, you're going to go on when we cover the fundamentals. The big thing is the nomenclature, because once we get through the semantics and the words and the terms used to discuss tide weaves, you're going to find that other tide weaves make a lot more sense much more easily. We're going to do deep dives into threading, treadling, and especially the tie-up, because once you unlock those mysteries of the tie-up and tide weaves, the whole world just becomes much clearer. We're going to cover single ties versus 2 ties versus paired ties. So if you're looking at this going, I'm not sure what all that means, this is what we're going to tackle. The materials fee is $5. That is for a spiral bound handout that is going to summarize everything I'm covering, including drafts and things like that. So if you've had anything to do with summer and winter, you might think, well, it's kind of boxy. Well, we can do much more than that. In Tide Weaves, we can have patterning in our ties and create texture in the surface of our fabric. We can incorporate different kinds of design into the same threading and come up with different ways of getting more mileage out of threading that's on your loom, especially when you go beyond 4 shafts. I won't be going beyond 8 shafts because there's so much you can do on 8 shafts. But this is where, when you start unlocking this, you realize that one threading on your loom is going to potentially be an unlimited number of things that you can weave, and you'll run out of work before you run out of ideas. So there are things that start making it look much more complex. This is something I've been having so much fun with recently. And some of it also is morphing things together. So this is a single 2-tie weave, but it's morphed it together with what is called monk's belt. And so some of that is, and it's got some color and weave in there. So, how can we intersect some of these things into tide weaves? The pictures is one thing that I will be covering, because this is really getting into the design. This is still 8 shafts, and color is a big one. So polychrome, poly meaning many colors. But the designing the use of more than one pattern color. So this is getting into a lot of the drafting. So it really helps if you understand the fundamentals of reading a draft. So threading, tie up, treadling, and the drawdown. Also, I'm going to look at some simple color techniques in addition to weaving with more than one pattern color. The big thing about tied weaves, and this is whether it's summer and winter or getting into double two tie, it tends to want a lot of treadles. And so I'm going to cover how to reduce the number of treadles on a loom by creating what's called a skeleton tie-up. Because once you sort of understand sort of the key to breaking it down, and all of a sudden you don't need 18 treadles to weave something. You can do it on far fewer. And then I'm also going to show the relationship of tied weaves like summer and winter to takate, samatum, beiderwand, and even more than that, and how you can even take a threading like an overshot threading that may be on your loom and weave it as if it were a tied weave. So hopefully this is intriguing some of you, so that you might be interested in signing up. Again, it's 3 hours on Friday afternoon from 1:30 to 4:30. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Robyn. Another interesting session that you're offering. We're looking forward to it. Thank you. Let's see. So this is listed as an intermediate session. Can you explain what kind of experience someone might need for this?
It is really invaluable if somebody knows how to read a draft.
Okay.
So you don't need, I mean, and if somebody said, I just started weaving, I kind of know some basic fundamentals of weaving, don't let that keep you back, because one of the things, as long as you understand threading, tie-up, and treadling, we're going to, like I said, do this deep dive into each of those components about how that factors into the designing and the weaving of different tied weaves. But again, you break apart one, like single two tie, all of a sudden single three tie, single four tie, you're kind of like, hey, this is pretty easy. And then it also gets you set up for understanding something like double two tie, paired ties, and other forms where you hear this language, this nomenclature. But once you start being able to decipher it, you start recognizing the potential for tied weaves. But this is where having a little bit of experience, at least in weaving and drafting, reading a draft, is going to be really invaluable.
Okay, great. Thank you. Again, Introduction to Tied Weaves, led by Robyn Spady. 3-hour seminar, Friday, July 12th. We want to thank all our session leaders for joining us today, as well as everyone else who could join us. As a reminder, registration for Convergence 2024 is open right now. If you are a member, you can log on to your account and register for these Convergence sessions that were featured here and many more. Just visit weavespindye.org/sessions. And please join us next time. We will be featuring these leader sessions, spotlight sessions, at 1 p.m. Eastern time, most days, all the way through November 22nd.